Good morning. I'm Julio Saenz along with Mauricio Riveros. Today we'll meet Ty Hookway, an entrepreneur who started CleanCraft and has grown it to over 300 employees and offices in Rochester, Buffalo, and Syracuse.
We hope you will be inspired.
Celebrating leaders in Rochester's unique and vibrant business community. We'll meet entrepreneurs whose passion and perseverance have helped push through life's challenges. Join us as we share their stories and journeys to success. It's time to be inspired.
Hi, Ty. Thank you very much to being Be Inspired, a show that we developed to interview interesting people like you who are business entrepreneurs, people who take the risk and do great things. So again, thank you. And so let's start to talk about who is Ty.
Just a Rochester guy. Grew up in this area. I went off to college for 4 years, came back and have never left. So sure. I love Rochester. I've got a beautiful wife, Elizabeth. I've got 7 awesome kids. I'm sort of a serial entrepreneur, and my biggest company is a cleaning company. I'm a building service contractor. We've got, working on 400 plus people, and Rochester, Syracuse, and Buffalo is our territory. So I love the industry, and it doesn't feel like I'm going to work every day. I love doing it. So,
when do you decide the time is right to expand? Because it seems like it's just down the thruway, but it's not that simple to just go into a city where you don't have the same connections, the same brand name, or any of those things.
You're right, Julio. It's it has been interesting. I've had a lot of ups and downs working in Buffalo and Syracuse. It's sort of been, I'm humble because I've made a lot of mistakes. So I think I've learned that I have to find really good people in that town that know everyone in that town. Has been my experience. So it's worked out pretty good, but it's just challenging because every town has its own nuances. And if you haven't grown up there, you have to really provide a good value proposition that makes a difference. But, with sort of trial and error the last 20 years, I got a decent base in those 2 cities. So it's been, it's working out pretty good. So.
That's very interesting, right? The evolution of the business, learning from our own mistakes, creating those lessons learned are fundamental. And now, what is that secret? What is that way to build those teams? Because I think the hardest thing to do, especially in heavy intensive labor work, is to create consistency and be able to really assemble those teams that can work together in a very systematic way. So what's your philosophy around that?
Great question. So it's interesting because the cleaning industry notoriously was sort of a top-down business in that it was just hierarchy. Like, I'm the boss, you do what I say, and then, all the way down the chain. And I actually was fortunate to start with a company called Service Master. I was a franchise, and their number one thing was honor God in all we do. And they had a whole different slant on it. It was about servant leadership. And I think that was a blessing for me because it was treating people with dignity and respect, and regardless whether the CEO or the janitor, because I'm the janitor. And early on, I sort of incorporated that. And I think you can run a great business, treat people well, and you don't have to beat on people. I think it can be a win-win for people. And that's really, I think that's sort of I've gotten better at it, of course, over the years, but I think that's the real, the differentiating thing that I've really learned over the years is just the way you treat people really, and that's all people really makes, it's a differentiator, I think, especially in my industry. So.
Fantastic. And I think we're always extra inspired, if there's such a thing, when we have someone that, who's successful in business and has attempted to always do that in adhering to their faith. And it's not that uncommon, but it's not that common either. And so how did you come to the realization that needed to be part of your philosophy? Did you have a mentor, or it just was always amongst your plan and the way of doing things?
Like everyone else, it's a journey. By no means am I, I've got so many faults, it's unbelievable, but I have had a ton of great mentors, business mentors, friendships. I had a great spiritual director. So, I mean, I try to keep learning, keep developing so that Mauricio, you mentioned having mentors and coaches. It's something that I want to be for people, and I believe finding people want to help. I believe that in my heart, and I've been blessed with a ton of really amazing people helping me. So I think that's sort of how it came to fruition, if you will. Especially, I had a great spiritual director, this lady named Damien, that she just you can be a spiritual person and like live, your passion for God without, you don't have to be, you can live it in your everyday life. Like you love people, you see the good in people. And you don't have to be a deacon or a priest. You can just live it in your daily life. And I know, Mauricio, you're in the construction business and it's a rougher world, but people, even more so in our more challenging trades, when you treat people well and you look at them and you see the good in them, and you see the God in them, I think it makes a huge difference. Doesn't mean there's not bad people out there, but you look for the good, and when there's challenges, you work through them. So
I love those principles, Ty, and congratulations, which are very important to create a solid foundation in an organization that really have ingrained the principle of servant leadership, which is, I think, fundamental. And we see constantly in great organizations where the CEO actually is in the bottom and he's supporting the rest of the organization and making sure that everybody works and achieve the goals. So now let's go one step further. Technology, innovation. We are now in a Zoom. We don't want to be in this circumstance, but we are. Technology. How technology is impacting or helping your industry, and what do you see in the future?
It is very interesting. When I, as I mentioned earlier, when I thought of this industry, I thought it could never change. You always have to empty trash and clean toilets, I figured, right? And vacuum, they can't change. They can't, the technology won't change. But believe it or not, there are robots and all sorts of amazing things happening in our space. So I'm heavily invested. I've got a ultraviolet robot down in my training room down here that we're going to be running at some of the hospitals locally. So technology has changed the industry, but at the same time, it's still people. I think the other thing where technology has really changed it is your communication, the way you communicate now. There's customer portals, and there's, you're not faxing or, calling on your landline. You are, how you stay in communication with people. There's an art and a gift to taking care of them, being a good servant to them, but also not bugging them. So I think a lot of technology advances there that we've embraced, and I think it's made a big difference to improve our effectiveness.
I just want to say, you have such strong principles in your business. How do you go about hiring people that will buy into your company's philosophy?
Well, I've got to tell you, I have the most unbelievable team. I got a group, of executive team, and then they really do the work, to be honest with you, at this point. Because once you sort of set the tone, like we have a culture. My culture is very simple. It's not complicated. It's like we want to give everyone we come into contact with quality of life and peace. So it's simple, and you can make all your decisions based on that, right? So when you meet someone, even if you don't want to hire them, you can still treat them with dignity. And even when you fire someone for not doing the right thing, you can treat them with dignity. So it's easy that driving, mission sort of keeps everyone in check. So, and truthfully, there's people that live that life and there's people that don't. There's some very beautiful people, but they're meant to be in a different environment, So truthfully, we politely weed people out that aren't really made for that. And it sort of happens naturally, So if you put that stake in the ground, that's our deal. That's how we run this gig. We believe we can make money and do that, and be kind and loving and make money. Others don't think so. You got to fight. You got to be, scarcity and mentality. I don't believe that. So you put that stake in the ground, and I think it, to me, over time, it's proven to be the best, return on investment for everybody.
That is fundamental. It's all about relationships, building those long-term relationships and repetitive clients who really know that you treat very well your people, therefore your people treats very well the clients, and it's this win-win situation like you referred in the beginning of the show. Now let's go to what is happening today. COVID-19, high demand, new opportunities for you, of course, to serve the community and create a clean environment. So how that, when COVID-19 hit the first time, and how was the reaction of your organization, and how you were able to really go and help to keep clean environments? So
interesting times, of course. So we have a mixed bag. So we're blessed. We're essential. We always have been working. We've never stopped working since, during this whole pandemic. But that being said, a lot of our commercial clients shut down. So they were dark for 4 or 5 months. So hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue per month just disappeared. We cleaned quite a few hospitals and nursing homes and surgery centers. Quite a few of those stayed open during this. And we've been in that hospital space for, 15, 20 years. So we're viruses, bacteria. This is old hat for us, So as the world get educated on bacteria and viruses, it's interesting. Everyone's all of a sudden an expert, but we know that it's challenging, but there's ways to solve it. There's some science behind it. I think our number one thing was, when it comes to surface contamination, there's no reason to panic. I think there's a lot of scare tactic and stuff. And what our personal mission was is to calm. There's nothing we can't solve. The world's not coming to an end. COVID positive persons, we can disinfect the thing. And it's truthfully, I was in the industry trying to calm it down and not oversell it, because there's a number of people number of companies that took advantage of it a little bit, and it really bothered me because it's a 4 or 5 cents a square foot thing, and people were charging 50 cents, and it really upset me as an industry leader. So I was out there screaming and yelling. And to this day, I work hard. I don't want to charge more. I want you to get it cleaned up. I mean, I want to make my money. I'll make some money on it, but it sort of bothers me a little bit the way it's gone down. But I think it's calming down. The industry sort of logic is taking over, because this is not rocket science. Disinfecting, we've been doing it for my whole life. So I think it's calming down, and I think the good news is I think we'll continue. We'll get through it. I'm inspired that we'll get through it. So,
well, thank you so much, Ty. We'll be back with more after these messages. And how do you? I know with COVID and everything, as far as having to adapt to people's work schedules, a lot of companies have talked about those kinds of things. Was staffing an issue for you during this time to find people and keep everything going?
It's interesting. We're a big payroll company, so we get all of that PPP money, and I invested it all in the people. I was given $2 or $3, $4 an hour extra because we had to keep staffed. I mean, we to answer your question, it's very challenging. We invested in the people with that PPP money to keep them out in the streets, to keep them safe with the best, masks, the best, protective equipment. All the management team was paid hazard pay because we literally were in the streets every day during that entire thing. So we sort of made it a rallying cry, like we were going to make a difference and do it the right way, do it right without gouging. And I think it got us closer as a company. I really think we, it wasn't the best financially, but I think as a company, we came closer together because we rallied and got through it. So that's where we are now. We're still just grinding away, trying to make a difference and do the right thing. And, I'm hopeful. I see the light in the tunnel. I think we all just got to stay positive and get through it.
Hi, now you are a very important player here in Rochester, in Buffalo, in other places. What is your philosophy to giving back to community? Being part of a community that, there's a lot of good causes here in Rochester. There is a great initiatives about, helping not-for-profit organizations, working with with the government and working with everybody to create a better environment and a better community. So what's your philosophy about giving back to community?
Something I've been working on my whole life. I have a sort of a drive to help. But when I sort of over the years, I was on a number of boards, and I ended up trying to think of the best way that I can use my gifts to help. So I've got actively involved in a couple things, but there's one. It's called Grayston. It's out of Yonkers, New York. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it, but it's called. They have a concept called open hiring, and I fell in love with it like 6 years ago. It's cool. This Buddhist monk out of Yonkers, this Italian Buddhist monk, founded this thing. The guy was unbelievable. His passion is, I'm not going to look at your past. I'm going to invest in your future right now. But it wasn't a handout. It was like you've got to, step up, produce right now, and and we'll work together. If not, you're out the door. And I've sort of focused all my time and energy into that. That's a nonprofit. I'm on the board down in Yonkers, and it's actually, we opened up the Rochester division of that. We have a great executive director that just started a couple months ago. So after a number of years of sort of thinking what I wanted to do, I said, what do I love to do is help people like I've met my whole life in my industry to succeed. And Graveston has been a way I've been doing it. So that's sort of where I'm putting my energy, as well as obviously just being a good person. But as far as nonprofit goes, I've sort of focused all my energy there because it's really where my passion lies. So.
Yeah, Tino, I'm going to hit you with a couple of our greatest hit, our two traditional questions that we haven't done in a little bit, but I'm really interested in hearing your response to these two things. So the first one is, if you could have dinner with anyone living or deceased, who would it be and why?
I would probably say just one person. I can't have two at the table, just one.
Just one, but it doesn't have to be the perfect answer. It could just be,
I don't know. I would probably Ignatius or Francis of Assisi.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, it's like the Franciscans and the Jesuits are like two orders that I love, and I'm a Catholic in my Catholic faith, and they've inspired me. I would love to sit down and have a dinner with one of those two. That'd be awesome for me.
That would be great. Yeah, I've been a big fan of St. Francis as I was a kid. Okay, the second question is, if you were on the cover of Time magazine, whatever comes to your mind here, if picture yourself on the cover of Time magazine, what would the headline say?
I can't imagine me being on the picture on the cover. I would say it's just I think Ty sees the good in people and hopes and inspires them to do their best.
Fantastic.
I'd hope.
I love the answers, and I love that through your answers clearly you reflect who you are and what is your philosophy of living. And the most important part, which I really, in this short interview, you can really see the culture that you are building in your organization, which is caring for the people. And I think that's the most important aspect in the end, because it's your service is all about people. It's all about people. It's you are serving, you are not building gadgets, you are providing every single day services. And I think that is fundamental. So if you can give a quick message to people who are maybe under depression right now in these moments of COVID and difficulties, lack of jobs, what would be the message?
I think we all got to keep going. It's rough. You know what I mean? Life is hard. I think looking back, you get working on your 60s and all the bumps and bruises of your life, they don't feel good at the time. And I think this is a bump and bruise in a lot of our lives. Some of my dear friends are struggling. It hasn't been easy for a lot of my workers. And I just think it's about what's the good coming out of it. Like I always try to find the good in it. I'm not a Pollyanna person. I'm not saying like this is great, but what can I develop? What can I learn? What can I do during this tough time? So And you got to keep going. You got to be tough. I have a true religious belief, but I'm also a cleaning contractor. I'm as tough as nails. I'm loving, nice guy, but do not, do the right thing, or I'm going to call you out on it. So I think people have to step up, be personally responsible, and work, man. Get through this. It's hard, and that's what Mother Teresa said. Do it anyways. It's hard. Do it anyways, man. Life sucks. Keep going. That's the way it is. I mean, I just think a lot of times it's the way we all. It's life. Anybody that's successful, and we all know, you got to fight. So that would be my message. Long-winded, but that's what I'd have.
Oh, Ty, what's the website for your company?
Cleancraft LLC.com. Cleancraftllc.com.
Excellent, Ty. Well, thank you very much. It was really an honor to have you in our program, and I'm sure in the future we will have you in a future program. But thank you again for the message, and thank you for what you do for your work, for your workers, for your community, for your clients.
Coming up next week on Be Inspired, we'll meet Peggy Hill, CEO of Rochester Management, one of the area's largest housing development management companies.
To watch today's episode and the complete interviews of our guests, go to rochesterfirst.com/beinspired. For more great talk with Rochester's entrepreneurs, listen to Poder 97.1, Saturdays at 9 a.m. For Mauricio Riveros, I'm Julio Saenz. We'll see you next week on Be Inspired.